How likely are these deaths to damage the UK-Israel relationship? And is this incident likely to see Israel change their tactics in Gaza?
Well, good morning, Nicola. Yeah, this is a terrible incident. It's really contemptible incompetence by the operators. But what I suspect has happened is an intelligence failure. I think there was a confusion earlier on that an aid truck that had been accompanying the convoy had a Hamas gunman with it. And I'm afraid to say the intelligence trail led to the attack afterwards. I'm afraid to say it shows also the dangers of drones. This happened at night, so there was no human operator nearby to see some of the detail. And the attacks continued, as you know, over the space of about 1.5 kilometers. So this is incompetence. There's no question about that. It's outrageous. It's tragic. It happens in confused situations like this. And I'm afraid to say that it will be something that obviously attracts a lot of attention. Of course, it should attract attention. But I think it won't deflect Israel in what it's trying to achieve in Gaza. And at the political level, people will understand that in a confused urban environment, these things can happen. They're not deliberate, they're accidental, as incompetent as they are.
Chris, you say it was a very confused environment, but actually they had notified the Israeli authorities of the logistics of that move. There were 3 missiles, we believe, into 3 separate vehicles, at least two of which were armed. Israel's response is woeful. It's pitiful. It says it was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened. These things happen in wartime. We are doing everything we can to ensure it does not happen again. That's really not good enough. And you can see that from the rhetoric ramping up from the UK when you have people like Sunak saying he's appalled, David Cameron saying this is unacceptable. You've even got President Biden also saying that this is simply unacceptable from Israel. So the response from the West is definitely hardening.
Absolutely. But, you know, David, if you've been in these situations, you know that all sorts of things come onto the people involved in the attack. I mean, I was in the Falklands. We managed to shoot down one of our own helicopters. And you look back on it and there's a chain of impressions that are given to sort of people at different times. You've got different people in the course of the attack. If you're told, for example, that this is a valid target, then you as the drone operator are going to attack it. So somebody is incredibly culpable in the Israeli intelligence organization. So you contrast it, for example, with the very precise attack that Israel managed to make on the Iranian Revolutionary Guard people in Damascus. You know, precision attack, nobody else was injured. You contrast that with this, you can see quite clearly the difference. I suspect that somewhere along the line, you've got some reservists involved rather than regular forces. And the Israelis will be saying, look, this is a significant own goal. It might be a tactical action, but this will have strategic impact on the people that support us and, of course, gives fuel to the fire that is being put in Israel's way.
But, Chris, you talk about precision attacks there. You've seen the photos of Al-Shifa Hospital. That certainly wasn't a precision attack. Months ago, we saw 3 Israeli hostages killed by the IDF. This keeps happening and happening. Front page of one of the papers today, doctors there saying that children have been targeted by Israeli snipers. It doesn't seem like Israel really have control over the wider IDF.
No, I think, Nicola, I mean, we're talking about incidents where people are confronted with choices and they take them. These people are themselves afraid of their lives. Now, look at the Al-Shifa thing. The whole Al-Shifa thing has been surrounded by lies from the start. We know initially when the rocket attack occurred, initially we heard there were 500 casualties. No, there weren't. It landed in a car park. Al-Shifa has been used as a major headquarters and fortress for Hamas. Israel doesn't actually commit forces for 2 weeks to a major attack like that if there aren't people there. And what's happened is they've killed 200 terrorists and captured 600. They weren't all in hospital in A&E. They were there to fight the Israelis. We know that Gaza is not actually a place where the truth has any value at all. And so in amongst all of this, all these things that are happening, we have to filter through what the truth is and what isn't the truth. And to be fair to the Israelis, they've come up straight away and said, look, we've messed up. This is an example where, some operators have not done the right thing. And you're right, when they killed their own hostages, that also happened. But, you go to the United States, a girl was shot yesterday by police running away from criminals and shot by the police. I'm afraid in the heat of the moment, these things do happen. It's no excuse. And I'm aware that, three of the people killed were veterans. They were a security detail. It's total incompetence. It's not deliberate. And Israel will be obviously ashamed and also harmed by this sort of thing.
Can I just ask you, though, in terms of the way it's impacted all of these countries, so those who died were Australian, Polish, British, Palestinian, dual US, Canadian citizen. This is on the back also of Alicia Kearns saying that the UK government has been given legal advice that Israel has broken humanitarian law. Very much the evidence that's coming out seems to suggest that Israel may be in breach of international law. NATO is meeting at the moment. How important, I mean, it will be right up there, won't it, in terms of the agenda for NATO? How important is NATO in all of this?
Well, David, I mean, NATO's got other concerns, of course, namely Russia, Ukraine, and whether the United States is going to stay committed. I think it will be mentioned. I think a lot of the talk at NATO will be how difficult it is fighting in an urban environment like this. And mistakes will happen. You can't maintain pressure when there are obviously populations around you. I think anybody that's fought in an urban area will know that daily you're living on your wits. You can't actually differentiate friend from foe or even the local population. And it's incredibly difficult. We have to understand that Israel is trying to end an existential threat to its existence as a state at the moment. So people are under pressure. So I think people will understand, particularly those who feel that they're in the front line against Russia, that Israel has to defend itself, but of course has to do a lot more in terms of its precision and in terms of looking after people who perhaps in a war zone need a bit more protection.